15 years ago, I went to Canada for a week to visit my sister-in-law. She'd been married to my brother who'd recently died, and she was living on her own in Toronto. While I was there, I went to a women's conference with her, and the speakers there were Anne Graham Lotz, that's Billy Graham's daughter, and Jill Briscoe, a British lady. The conference was held in the Ice Hockey Stadium in Toronto, and 20,000 women from all across North America gathered there. And the title of the conference was Just Give Me Jesus. And for 3 days, they did exactly that. It was amazing. Now, Jill Briscoe had just turned 70, and she was in total rebellion about being 70 and about getting old. How can you possibly be 70 when you're still only 35 inside? She and her husband Stuart and their son Pete have a worldwide ministry and have preached and taught the gospel across many countries. But she said that her life verse was now Psalm 71, verse 24. Even when I am old and grey, do not forsake me, O Lord, until I have told your works to the next generation, your power to all who come. So whatever age you are, I want to encourage you not to feel that you are past your use-by date. We never retire from being Christians. Although few of us have international ministries like Jill Briscoe, we all have a circle of influence, family, friends, and neighbours. My father was 81 when my mother died, and he was very fit and full of energy. He had cared for my mother for several years as her health declined, and now he was ready for adventure. He'd been a Christian since he was 14 years old, and although he'd never had any formal Christian training, he'd studied the scriptures all his life, and he had preached and taught the scriptures and taught my brothers and me from an early age. He prayed for us every day and for our spouses and children. Just before his 90th birthday, he phoned me up and said he was going to Malta for a holiday. Why Malta, Dad? I said. Oh, he said, I've been praying for Malta for years. He took the flight from the local airport and took a suitcase full of Gideon Bibles and Christian tracts, and every day he would sit on the seafront and wait till somebody came and sat on the same bench, and then he would talk to them about the Lord and offer them a Bible or a tract. After a week, he had given everything away. He had nothing left. So he phoned the local Gideons and said he needed some more Bibles. So they brought him some, and he gave all those away as well. And when he'd given them all away, he got on the flight and came home. About a few weeks later, we celebrated his 90th birthday, and to be honest, we all laughed about it and said, well, Dad, if ever there's a revival in Malta, we'll know who started it. Later that year, he was called home to Jesus, and 200 people came to his funeral. It was at St. James's, Westgate, and Robert Bashford took the funeral. Friends of my generation and younger who'd known my parents over the years and experienced their hospitality and wisdom came from all over the country. But local people who had known him came too, even a land girl who had worked with him during the war when he was farming. Also a couple who had converted to Christianity from Islam through his witness. Not many 90-year-olds have big funerals. For a year after he died, we had his post redirected to us and a magazine dropped through our letterbox about 6 months later. It was about world mission, and it had stories of Bibles to China and all sorts of things going on, but there was a small paragraph that said, Revival in Malta. Apparently there were refugee camps full of people who were fleeing North Africa across the Mediterranean, and they were living in refugee camps in Malta, and they were asking for Bibles because there was a revival going on. Now, I know that not many people enjoy robust health into their 90s, and many people far younger suffer chronic illness and pain and disability. My husband suffered this way for the last 7 years of his life, and it was hard for him not to feel that he was no longer useful to God. But as I look back, I can see how God worked a miracle of grace in his life and in mine, and I believe he was still a blessing to the people that we saw during that time. So please, whatever age you are, be encouraged and inspired by this verse from Psalm 71. Even when I am old and grey, do not forsake me, O Lord, until I have told your works to the next generation, your power to all who come.